I'm not going to answer the question, no
Okay.
matter how many times you ask
Okay.
it. The war is the threat. The war is the threat to peace in general. The president is right. Thousands of young Ukrainians and Russians being killed every single week. That's the threat. That's why the president has brought 8 peace treaties to fruition in 8 months. As he said just yesterday, Russia and Ukraine will be number 9. I'm not going to be caught or pulled into some BBC, fake news questioning.
A
It's
Trump ally
peace.
shuts down a BBC interview live, rejecting what they call biased, woke questioning about Russia. In the clip, the presenter presses, "Is Russia a threat?" and the guest fires back, "False dichotomy, your premise, wrong," then flatly refuses to answer. But here's the twist: it turns genuinely startling when he pivots to claim the president has delivered 8 peace treaties in 8 months, with Russia and Ukraine number 9 next. If that boast is true, it changes how Britain measures security, costs, and trust in broadcast journalism. So why dodge a simple question, and what exactly is being sold as peace on our screens?
The feelings I have on any issue regarding national security.
Okay, let's talk about the national security strategy, which was published by the US administration. We have a similar document here, actually, which is the Strategic Defence Review. And in that, it concluded that Russia was an immediate and pressing threat. Is that view shared by the US?
Well, the new document, and I really strongly recommend all of your viewers have a look at it. It's a short document. It's unclassified. It's on the White House website as of Friday afternoon. It really is, as one of your guests says, it is a dose of reality. It is clear that we wish Europe to prosper. It talks about the very close sympathy, the ties, the historic traditions that bind us together across the Atlantic, but we will not be taken advantage of. And we are very disturbed that there seems to be a civilizational decline in the states of Europe, whether it's unfettered illegal immigration, or, as one of your guests noted, the fact that for far too long, for literally decades, I broke my teeth, I cut my teeth on NATO issues 30 years ago. The nations of Europe just did not take their collective defense seriously, and it was America that had to step into the breach again and again and again. So we wish Europe to flourish. We wish Europe to be safe, but they have to take responsibility for themselves. And we're not going to countenance anymore what we witnessed for decades, which is the free rider complex.
Okay, I will come back to that question about Europe, but my question was about Russia and about, in this document, it talks about establishing strategic stability in Russia. What does that mean in terms of America?
Right. Watch how the BBC tries to force a neat Russia is the threat soundbite, and how the guest refuses to play along. Listen for the exact wording he repeats. Now, core context in plain English. This is a BBC interview pushing a Trump ally to label Russia an immediate and pressing threat. He won't do it. He calls it a facious dichotomy and says the war is the threat, then turns it into a wider argument about Europe carrying its own weight. Whether you like his style or not, the public stakes are real: defense spending, energy prices, and whether ordinary taxpayers get dragged into someone else's priorities without an honest debate. And notice the media game here. If he says yes, you get a hawkish headline. If he says no, he's painted as soft. So he stonewalls and throws the focus back to outcomes, even claiming 8 peace treaties in 8 months. That's his claim in the exchange, not a fact the BBC confirms on air. The presenter then pushes back on fake news, and the whole thing becomes a row about who controls the frame. Next bit matters because he shifts from geopolitics into a blunt critique of Europe, and he does it with specific lines you can't miss. Pay attention to the claims he stacks up.
Well, very clearly, we would like to see the end of war. We have seen something that I never would have thought possible in my lifetime: the recrudescence of warfare with tanks, with artillery, with trenches. That should not be the case. We would like that to end. But if that is the case, then Europe needs to be serious as well, not wagging fingers from across the Atlantic, but actually taking responsibility for the idea that major nations like Germany are still buying Russian gas is insanity. And the president warned you about that the last time he was in office. So what it means is that you need to be as serious about national security as we are.
Are you at all concerned that the Kremlin, in response to this document, said that it was largely in line with its own vision?
No, because I've been watching the Kremlin ever since I was an adult, and lots of things come out of the Kremlin that are not true. The words maskirovka and desinformatia come from the Soviet era, and much applies to that use of propaganda today. So, no, what comes out of Moscow is not necessarily holy writ in my book.
Just to go back one more time to try and get you to answer the question about whether
You can try as much as you like.
I will. I'll try one more time. I'll try one more time. Whether America feels that Russia, as it described in our security document, is an immediate and pressing threat.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on British government documents. I'm here to represent the President of the United States and the National Security Council. The document is very, very clear what we think about threats and what we think about Europe. We wish Europe to be safe and to prosper. We would like it to take the threats to itself more seriously and perhaps stop by actually funding Russia when it has invaded another country by buying its fossil fuels.
So should I draw from that you are looking at Europe and thinking there is more criticism in this document of Europe, some would say, than there is of Russia? Is that fair to conclude? And from your answers that you don't want to answer whether Russia's an immediate threat?
It's not a binary choice. It's a fallacious dichotomy. Your premise of your question is wrong.
Do you think that Russia's a threat?
Right. That's the argument. Europe can't demand American protection while, in his view, it ignores borders, struggles with public safety, and won't even hit basic demographics like the 2.1 replacement rate. You can disagree with the tone, fair enough, but the underlying point is America first in a nutshell. Allies should act like adults, not permanent dependents. Now for the moment where the interview goes properly sideways. The presenter asks what cultivating resistance means, then floats funding political parties as an example, and he grabs that phrase like it's a lifebuoy. Clock how fast it turns into accusations.
Well, very simply, when you have unfettered entry by millions of illegals from other parts of the world that don't necessarily share your Judeo-Christian heritage, when you see the rape gangs in the UK, for example, destroy the lives of thousands of young girls and then being protected by local law enforcement because they're afraid of being deemed racist if they investigate those things, then we are very perturbed by what we witness in Europe. So it is clear, if you just look at the birth rates, for example, the civilizational decline across Europe, that no one is even close to the 2.1 replacement rate. So whether it's a lack of sovereignty, whether it's turning a blind eye to the absolute carnage wrought by some communities on your nations and illegal immigration by the truckload. These aren't opinions of the president's administration. These are empirical facts. Europe is in civilizational decline. But the most important part of the document, or should be from your perspective, is we wish to see that reversal. But we cannot impose that on you from Washington, D.C. That has to be a decision of the people of Europe. And God bless everyone who voted for Brexit, who said, we wish to have the UK a sovereign nation again. So this isn't opinion, this is fact. Europe is in civilization decline.
Yeah, the document does talk about cultivating resistance.
From the country you wish me to comment on as some kind of, overarching existential threat, well, you will have a problem. Stop buying Russian energy and maybe you'll be a little bit more secure.
The document does talk about cultivating resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations. Does that mean funding certain political parties here? Is that one way of approaching it?
And that's the tell. He calls it classic BBC hackery and demands, where did you get that from, while she insists she's allowed to ask questions. Both sides start performing. He's trying to make her look dodgy, she's trying to pin him to a controversial interpretation. The casualty is trust, because viewers end up thinking every question is a trap and every answer is a dodge. In the end, this isn't just teledrama. It's about whether serious security policy gets made through straight talk or through studio gotchas and politicians taking the mick out of the audience. America first means peace through strength and respect for the taxpayer, not being guilted into open-ended commitments by a media script.